Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York.
If you're looking for essential oils, stop by and check out Essentially Tammy on Facebook. She is Young Living Essential Oils Independent Distributor. These 100% therapeutic grade oils help support the body's natural functions. You can click on her website posted on Essentially Tammy, that's T-A-M-I, to see the current deals and check out the benefits of oils such as frankincense, joy, valor, lemon, thieves, panaway, and many more. Email Jocotami, that's Jocatami @yahoo.com, or call 352-239-8546. That's 352-239-8546. Hey, don't forget good old Amanda at Pacific West Bamboo. Pacific West Bamboo, 503-839-8126. You can reach her at demroots@oppermail.com. Pacific West Bamboo, your number one source for timber, construction, and craft-grade bamboo poles, plants, products, and more. They specialize in eco-friendly reclaimed wood products for the home and garden. They're located in Portland, Oregon, servicing the Northwest for over 10 years. They can be reached at 503-839-8126. That's 503-839-8126. Her Facebook page is Pacific West Bamboo. They can and do ship nationwide, and they're currently getting a new line of bamboo flooring, veneers, and laminates made from Guadawa bamboo, one of the world's strongest bamboos, grown and produced and manufactured in Central America using only economically and environmentally friendly practices and standards. Good old Mike Gray at infinityhomeplans.com. Check out Infinity Home Plans and Design Services, your resource for 3D and 2D draftsman services. They offer a multitude of products, including stock home plans, 2D digital drawings, 3D models, renderings, and more. That's infinityhomeplans.com. Hey, don't forget emailrevealer.com. That's my website, emailrevealer.com. And we offer all different kinds of services. Current place of employment locate. Let's say you're trying to locate where your ex-husband or your ex-wife is working so you can collect on child support. You contact us, we can locate their place of employment for you and help you collect on that child support. Let's say you think that your husband or your wife is cheating on you. Give us their email address and we can trace it back to online dating websites and dating services. So we have a multitude of services on emailrevealer.com. Hey, don't forget the New World Mexican Women. Okay, now you just Google New World Mexican Women. You can find their book where they first describe their love letters to their men and their sons and their uncles and their brothers who have traveled from South America to North America to work as migrant workers. But the women down in this town there in Guerrero, Mexico, they want their men to come back. So they've written these beautiful love letters, and they've put them all in this beautiful coffee table book. First, the letters are written in Spanish, handwritten. You can see pictures of the people writing the books. And then it comes on after that, and it's typewritten in English. And then also, too, the second half of the book is teaching you how to make authentic Mexican jewelry from these New World Mexican women. You can find their book on Lulu.com. It's only $19, or you can download the digital edition for free. That's New World Mexican Women, and it's a two-part book where first part is the love letters, and the second part is the making the handmade jewelry, the authentic Mexican jewelry. But you can also contact them, too, as well, if you want to get a deal on wholesale jewelry from Mexico, from these women.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report After Show. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. Don't forget that the show is brought to you by Audible.com. You go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report, and you sign up for free, and you get a free audio book. It's free for the whole month. You can get free books almost every day. So we're here now on CJMarsRadio.com and 365 Live. You can find the, the archives. Oh, by the way, the archives go up on hazyradio.com too during the week, like Sunday or Monday. But you can also find them on YouTube.com, on the Opperman Report YouTube channel, and you can also find them on our Spreaker channel. And if you subscribe on both of those spots there, you don't need to contact me and say, hey, when the archive's coming up, because you'll get a notice that it's coming up. If you subscribe on Spreaker, if you follow us on Spreaker, you'll get an email when new content goes up. And just imagine, you won't have to email me and ask me when it's going up. I know it'll be tough. Not hearing from me on a Saturday morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, when you want to email me. But we've been joined by Joshua Brookshire, who's sort of an expert on Manson, and he's from the band Bookhouse. Hey, Josh, are you playing anywhere this week?
We're playing next Saturday in the Washington, D.C. suburbs of Arlington, Virginia.
What's the name of the club?
It's a record store. We're playing a record store show at the CD Cellar in Arlington, Virginia.
Ah, very good. Okay, now before we get to Josh, now Joe, you were just telling us some stuff about Sirhan, and we were talking about his psychiatrist was the same one. It was Berkowitz's psychiatrist.
Well, actually, yeah, two of them. There's Bernard Diamond, who was one psychiatrist, and another one in New York City was a Schwartz. I forgot his first name. But Schwartz was a CIA kind of psychiatrist involved in the MK-Ultra program that was supposedly discontinued in the 1970s. But Schwartz's specialty, in his words, I read somewhere, was that he would put into people's minds the idea that a crime was committed, they were told to commit a crime by a demon, which kind of is exactly what Berkowitz came up with after talking to the psychiatrist, was the demon dog told him to kill everybody. And yeah, so it's pretty interesting. They were also had dealings with Sirhan. Yeah.
Right. Now,
and I believe Mark David I think one of them also had interviewed Mark David Chapman.
Well, that's fascinating. Now, one thing I found interesting, too, is now David Berkowitz, one of the things he told Maury Terry was about the connections of the Process Church to the murder of Arliss Perry in California. And it turns out that her husband, I think his name is Bruce Perry, he's a psychologist. And he got involved in giving therapy to the children at Waco, the siege of Waco.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so, did you ever meet him, Sarah?
No, have not. I didn't know that. There's connections popping up everywhere. It's really overwhelming.
Yeah, it's like playing the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
And it seems like everybody's in on it but us.
Right.
The 6 people on this call are the only ones I can trust.
The name that keeps popping up in psychology, too, is Jolly and West. I think...
oh, yes. Yes.
Infamous, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's that? Tell us.
Well, he was the guy they did for McVeigh. He was the psychologist they called for McVeigh, and I can't remember the other one that they used them for.
Do you know Michael Marinacci?
I have heard the name again and again connected with alleged mind control programs. I know he was part of something at UCLA, like the Center for the Study of Violence, or something like that. I recall that he had connections with JFK. I'm sorry?
With Cameron up in
Titanic guy?
Canada.
No.
Oh.
No. Just a really brutal Canadian psychiatrist who did all sorts of awful things. Yeah.
Wasn't he also Jack Ruby's psychiatrist?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thought so. I thought that name sounded familiar.
You know, it's kind of interesting, too, that the Church of Scientology has that group that hates psychiatrists, you know, and Now, what do you think the motivation behind that is? Because if they got all these psychologists on their, you know, obviously working on that team, you know, why would the Scientologists be able to discredit them?
Because I think that L. Ron Hubbard appears, from what I've read about him, to have suffered from bipolar disorder and had these really manic and psychotic episodes, and ended up being hospitalized more than once, and was adamantly angry then and in denial of the fact that any type of mental illness existed, and it was all an evil plot dreamed up to control people. And that's my understanding of where that came from. So mentioning the fact that it's possible that there's mental illness and psychiatrists is like, you know, blasphemy, I guess.
Yeah. As a longtime student of the whole scene around Scientology and Hubbard, I would agree. I think the man had it was really his whole personal fear. I know I've once been told, well, he was secretly terrified that if he was ever taken in and examined by a psychiatrist, that he'd be committed. And so it became this whole thing of to wipe out psychiatry because it was evil and because mental illness, as commonly understood, does not exist. There's a whole period, and right after he got, I think when this really started happening, right after he got out of the Navy in World War II, where he was beginning to be observed very closely because of his personality and some things he'd done during the war, and I think that's where he really began to develop this hatred of the whole, what he calls psychs, that whole world.
Hey, Josh, I know you called in because you want to talk about some Manson stuff. What do you got on your mind?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is my audio coming through all right?
You're okay.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I know. But like you were saying about connecting things and how there are people on the call that maybe we have the information and we don't know how to put it together, there's one thing that I definitely think connects the process with you to Joe Ditoma's Black Sun onto my question that I'm grateful that you relayed to Mr. Marinacci. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, sir. And
Marinacci, close enough.
Marinacci, I'm sorry, man.
Marinacci,
My bad,
yeah.
dude.
That's okay.
But connecting it with Charles Manson, I don't know if anybody's ever watched the documentary Charles Manson Superstar, directed by Nicholas Schreck, the former Satanist who's actually married to Dina LaVey. But there's a comment in there about how Charles Manson really believes in the Gnostic deity of Abraxas, the temporal demon that controls both good and evil. And if you look at the process ideology, despite its obvious leanings towards National Socialism, they do believe in the extreme duality of good versus evil, and they see themselves as the agents of chaos that are going to initiate Armageddon. So there's this part in his interview where he talks about receiving a letter from none other than Rudolf Hess before he died, the Nazi war criminal.
Oh, yeah.
And Charles Manson wrote him a letter, right? A whole, long spiel. And Rudolf Hess replied with one word, and that was Abraxas. So that ties in the Nazi leanings of the Process Church with the avowed white supremacist ideology of Charles Manson. And it goes just in one big circle, so it's hard to deny these things. I don't know if anybody on this call has ever heard that before. Comment.
No, the Abraxas thing, I've never heard that one. About the Rudolf Hess has fascinated me since I was a kid. They kept the whole prison open just for this one guy.
Yeah, in Spandau prison, I believe the name was.
What was he?
He was the one.
They want to know. Yeah.
He was the one that flew into England, right, and got caught.
Right. And got caught.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And they said he was flying to Aleister Crowley's castle, is what they said.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
he went down in
shot
Scotland.
Yeah, he got shot down in Scotland.
Yeah.
So,
although by that time, I think Crowley had long given up that castle by Loch Ness. At that point, he was just a broke pensioner living in London. But still, that he went to Scotland is interesting.
Well, so was there like a meeting set up between Hess and the Royals to discuss them? Because what I heard was they were going to do a back deal with the Nazis and basically turn England over to the Nazis.
Well, that was the thought. But what the history books have said, it was all in Hess's head.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
But he was convinced, that he was going to. That's what he told Hitler. I'm going to go and stop this war, before it goes any further. And we have many friends in England, and supposedly that's what happened, and he got shot down.
And Hess was also heavily with the pre-Nazi, the occultic groups, the Thule and the Vril Society. Hess was very big into that theosophical occult thing, even before he met Adolf Hitler.
Right.
So he had all this knowledge before the war even started and all these things. And at the end of it, he was, until Charles Manson overtook him, he was the longest-serving prisoner in world history. Like, he had been in there for 20, 30, 40 years at that time when they didn't keep people in jail for very long. He had, like, some crazy world record for it.
Yeah.
There's also a there's also a theory that the guy that they had there that they said was Hess was not Hess. That the real Rudolf Hess had died earlier, and there was an imposter being kept there for some arcane reason having to do with the relationship with the Soviets. I couldn't provide more details. I've just heard that theory being bandied about.
Interesting.
I don't know how much I would buy into it, because if it was a double, it's very important to note that Rudolf Hess supposedly died in his cell on the day of like a cosmic conjunction when the stars in the sky aligned at a certain point. It was I forget what the name was. It was something in the mid-70s or something like that, some big astronomical New Age event, and he happened to just drop dead in the middle of the night in Spandau prison.
And they had a whole prison just for him.
Yeah. A big one too.
They had Albert Speer was there for a while, but then he was let go in the early '60s. It's just Hess never got out. Yeah.
Right. I guess they don't have private detention in prisons there.
So was Hess the one that was the real driver behind the occult stuff with the Nazis and Hitler, or did they have a couple of other people too that were pretty strongly driven?
Himmler, who was the head of the SS, was very heavily involved in that stuff. Very much a mystic, and was involved in revival of Norse and Germanic paganism, and using the symbols and much of the National Socialist symbology, and also very much into the whole mythos around the Knights Templar, and that the SS were the new Knights Templar, this new knightly order that was going to cleanse the world of evil. And he was I think one of the big movers of that whole aspect of the Nazi experience.
Whatever happened to Martin Bormann? I can't remember. I forget.
Well, it depends on who you talk to. Some people think he died in the bunker, or near the bunker in Berlin, and then there's others that think he escaped to South America and lived there into the 1960s and 1970s.
I was just looking this up about the Hess, and it says that he tried to get out of prison, citing overcrowding, and he failed every time. Okay, listen. I'm not a big World War II. You like that, huh? Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Let me ask you this, because now, Mike, you're saying that Mike Marinacci, you were saying that you're a big study of Scientology. Now, have you ever noticed all connections to the O.J. Simpson trial to the Church of Scientology?
No, I was not aware there were any. I did not follow the Simpson trial that closely. I know that any time you're involved in Southern California, in Hollywood, in L.A., whatever, with the entertainment industry, sooner or later you're going to run into the Scientologists. They have a very big presence there, and I think that's why there has never really been a TV show or movie made that's been an expose of them or an accurate biopic of Hubbard, who was an absolutely fascinating character. I mean, they kind of did a sort of half-assed one with that movie, The Master, with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Joaquin Phoenix. They kind of lightly based on Hubbard, but really there was 1/100th of the craziness of his life that made it into that film. And I was very disappointed when I saw it, even though I thought both Hoffman and Phoenix were terrific actors, and was very sad to see Hoffman go so early. He was one of my favorites. But no, I think that's just a function of any time you're in the entertainment business around there they have infiltrated it very, very heavily.
Yeah.
Do you think Hoffman was bumped off for portraying their Messiah?
No.
I heard that, but I doubt it. I think he was just he was somewhat like somebody like Johnny Thunders of the New York Dolls. He was a reformed junkie, a reformed addict who decided he could have a little bit for old time's sake, and his body wasn't up to it. He just failed.
If I may, I'm sorry for cutting you all off. If I may interject, it's interesting in that movie that to beg the pun, the act that substitutes auditing in that film in Scientology is called processing. At the end of the movie, Philip Hoffman and the lady that plays his wife, they're located at a school in England. That entire movie, honestly, is a story about initiation where Joaquin Phoenix plays the profane or the person that would be like initiate into like a mystery school or an occultic thing. And it proceeds through 3 acts, the first 3 steps of initiation. And at the end, Philip Seymour Hoffman says, if you're not with us now, you will never be with us throughout eternity. So it's basically setting that movie. If you look at Paul Thomas Anderson's career, he's Boogie Nights. Everyone knows that. Punch Drunk Love. What is it? There Will Be Blood. When Boogie Nights came out, when the day Boogie Nights premiered, his father died, and the actor that played the pedophilic producer in Boogie Nights, the Colonel. I don't know how many of you guys know the movie Boogie Nights. Both of those actors died on one day and then the day after each other. And Philip Seymour Hoffman has passed away. He frequently uses the music producer John Bryan, which was connected with a very famous Los Angeles and Portland area musician, Elliott Smith, who Paul Thomas Anderson directed a short for, who was found dead with double stab wounds, and it was ruled a suicide, even though...
Elliott Smith.
Yeah. So there's a little... I like Paul Thomas Anderson's movies, but I believe that he might be tied in with a little bit heavy things, especially if you watch the deleted short from The Master. It has this in an entire thing. It's called Slow Boat to China. It's filmed with pieces that were cut out of the movie, and it includes a part where Joaquin Phoenix is left to entrust a secret, a box by himself by Philip Seymour Hoffman, and he opens it, and it's just one single burst of flame. Then he closes the box and never mentions it again. It's left out of the movie. The entire movie is, I found it to be one of the best movies I've seen in a long, long time, but it is very heavy with symbolism and occultic nature. I just wanted to throw that out, and I'm sorry for stepping on the conversation, guys.
No.
That's interesting. Yeah. Just certain things in there I just wondered about why they were put in the movie, like the whole scene in the house, when there's the party and he's imagining all the women are nude. And what's that all about?
And Hoffman singing, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's almost like he's seeing through the superficial nature and seeing what is really going on, almost like program breaking, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Emperor's New Clothes.
You know, the Scientologists are, they have their whole cadre of thugs for when they do things that people don't like. And I only know this because I have a psychiatrist friend who was involved in testifying in a case that had some Scientology ties. And this was several years ago, but I mean, I don't know if they've changed, but he had people like ring the doorbell, and when he or his wife came to the door, there'd just be somebody to take a picture of them and then go back out in their car and drive away. And that kind of stuff happened all the time. So while Philip Seymour Hoffman probably wasn't bumped off, nobody knows what stressor, triggered his relapse.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah.
So
they have a long,
They're very litigious, and one of their lawyers is Greta Van Susteren.
Yeah. Who was, just think how much she molded the OJ trial.
Yeah.
That's where she got famous from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And
why is she hanging out with Lindsay Lohan?
Oh, brother, that's a whole nother story. Lindsay Lohan's so deep, forget it.
Yeah, that's. I was going to say that their whole litigious strategy comes from something said by Hubbard himself. He said, anytime we're opposed, anytime we're in trouble, take our opponents to court and just ream them in court. He said something like make flames dance on the roof of the court of the court building. His whole position, it was kind of an inculcated paranoia to his followers that everybody who opposes us, everybody who's outside of the church is either insane, stupid, and or criminal, and should be treated as such. And any opposition to us is by its very nature and by its very definition out of bad faith and evil, and should be opposed completely and destroyed completely. It's a very, very dangerous attitude that he started and has been kept going in the church all these years.
Yeah. Well, he was big in the Church of Satan too, with Jack Parsons.
Well, that was the OTO. That's a bit different. I know. Yeah, he was. He was working with. Well, he stole Parsons' girlfriend and his boat and a lot of his money. I know that whole story. And Parsons, of course, came to a very odd end himself, an explosion. There's a couple very good books about him, biographies. One is called Sex and Rockets, and the other one, I forget what it's called, but fascinating character, Jack Parsons.
And he was having an affair with his mother. They're all living in the same house.
They don't. Yeah, they never confirmed that. There's stories about that. There's stories that the cops found films of him having sex with dogs and weird stuff. And that it's never. There's no real evidence that I've heard those stories, but he was pretty out there for his time. But I don't think he was. I haven't heard anything.
His wife became a protege of Kenneth Anger, right?
Marjorie Cameron.
Cameron.
Yeah.
Now, what do you guys think of this guy Peter Moon and the story he tells about Parsons and stuff?
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with that either.
Okay. He's a frequent guest on a lot of shows.
Well, Peter Moon, I've read some of his books.
Okay.
Now, he claims that Mark Hamill and Duncan Cameron, were making pornos at their beach house. Did you hear that? Did you read that?
Well, there's all kinds of stories about that. Manson stole some video equipment. He was making kiddie porn and porno and stuff like that. And then also Polanski, too, that there was all kind of films in his house as well. Right. So, it seems to be a theme.
Involving some fairly famous people, I've heard, or at least that's the rumor that went around, and that It was confiscated allegedly by the LAPD and has never seen the light of day since. But yeah, that story keeps coming up around the Manson case.
And then you got Roy Ray.
Maybe not so much Manson, but the people around the Cielo Drive house and that whole scene were doing this sort of very kinky stuff and recording it on film.
And you got Roy Radin in the Long Island, and all of those stories about the movies that were being done. And, I had friends that went to parties in that house, too, and they were talking about all the porn stars. Yeah. Porn stars that were out there and little kids that were at the parties, and there were young kids using drugs and having sex at these parties, Well,
that's a good way to control people. Look at the...
Right.
The
You mean like actors, like Drew Barrymore and the Feldman and Hames and all that? Wow.
And look at what was that girl? I forget her name now. I forget. I can't remember.
The one from the Welcome Back, Kotter?
No, the one. Oh no, not Melanie Holland. No, not her. But the other one, the one that she was in a movie, Pretty Baby, with the.
Brooke Shields.
Brooke Shields, right? And somehow, some way, got taken under the wing of Bob Hope, and was involved in everything with Bob Hope, every Bob Hope special, Bob Hope tours and stuff like that. What was up with that?
There's a lot of stories about Bob Hope and MK Ultra program. Yeah.
Not even to mention Blue Lagoon. I mean, that's basically sanctioned child pornography. I mean, no offense to everyone involved, but really that is underage child, nudity.
Well, her first movie was Pretty Baby, which played a teenage prostitute.
The 70s, it was a different time.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Now forget ever doing something like that again. But really, this stuff was fairly common in the 70s.
It raises its ugly head every few years. They try to get it to look more normal. Look at this. The woman
That's true.
Girls. What's her name? The land.
Lena
Dunham.
Oh, Lena Dunham. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do you all remember those? Do y'all remember those Calvin Klein ads?
Yeah.
That came out in the late 90s.
Oh yeah.
With the guy going, how do you look? Why don't you smile? Thought that was like the creepiest thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Yes.
Well, one thing I was going to bring up before when we were talking about the death of Philip Seymour Hoffman, the heroin overdose. Now, what about this whole story about Heath Ledger when he died of an overdose, and that the Olsen twins had? Do you guys know this story? That they had their own Blackwater reaction team that went in there and cleaned up the house. They had mercenaries. That the Olsen twins have a team of mercenaries working for them.
They're billionaires.
Yeah, they're billionaires. Yeah.
Well, they're called cleaners. You know what I'm saying? They're called cleaners for a reason, bro. You got to remove that evidence from there. And then what goes on to happen? You see a million Joker memes around everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And everybody. You in Las Vegas, you know what I'm talking about, man. It's at one point I'm not really like a conspiracy person, but some of this stuff does tie in a little bit too much.
I'll tell you this, my former partner was NYPD Harbor Aviation, okay, and these were all guys that were ex Navy SEALs and stuff like that. These are really elite cops, they jump out of helicopters, they dive into water, they save people. They save that plane Sully landed the plane in the harbor there, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. They rescued the people off the top of the World Trade Center. Now, they used to recruit. My partner used to recruit guys for Blackwater. Now, did you guys know that what's that guy? The guy who did the Fahrenheit
Michael Moore.
Michael Moore has a Blackwater. Yeah. His bodyguards are Blackwater guys.
Wow.
The same guys that were over there in Iraq defending that guy who was involved in 9/11. Yeah. Some of the same guys.
You know what's funny? In that video documentary, Fahrenheit 9/11.
Bremer. There was the Ambassador Bremer. He had a Blackwater team over there in Iraq, and some of the same guys, the same actual people defending him, were walking around defending Michael Moore.
But they're also doing all the work for Monsanto.
Yeah, I bet they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike. What?
Oh, well, I was just going to say, in Fahrenheit 9/11, he comes right up to that line of accusing the Bushes of 9/11 being an inside job, but he doesn't cross it.
Right.
But, I mean, he ties the Bushes with the Bin Laden and
right.
Bass and, you know, how they were in bed together, you know, and all that. But with the Saudis, you know. But he doesn't come and say it was an inside job. You know?
Yeah. He likes living in that $5 million house on the lake.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I like living, period.
Right. I like
right. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Because you know, he's got that team around him now. Who knows if they're guarding him or they have him in prison?
Oh yeah,
you know?
they go either way.
There's a fine line when you got bodyguards around. Okay, we're at the half hour. Cindy, you want to take a little break here and play some commercials? So we take a little break here and get a glass of water. Okay. Hey.
Desde la histórica altura, donde el sol de tu bravura la puso cerca la muerte. Aquí se queda la clara, la entrañable transparencia de tu querida presencia, comandante Che Guevara. Tu mano gloriosa y fuerte sobre la historia dispara, cuando toda Santa Clara se despierta para verte. Aquí se queda la clara, la entrañable transparencia de tu querida presencia, comandante Che Guevara. Quemando la brisa con soles de primavera para plantar la bandera con la luz de tu sonrisa. Aquí se queda la cara, la entrañable transparencia de tu querida presencia, comandante Che Guevara. Tu amor revolucionario te conduce a nueva empresa, donde esperan la firmeza de tu brazo libertario. Aquí se queda la clara, la entrañable.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, we are back with the Opperman Report After Show. Welcome back. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. And don't forget, our shows are brought to you by Audible.com. You know, just do me a favor and go to Audible.com and go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report. Don't even sign up. Just let me see that I'm getting some hits from this thing. There's some potential that someday I'll see a freaking dime from this commercial. Okay. Just do me that one favor, okay? Audibletrial.com/Opperman Report, okay? Let's just see if anything happens from that. Okay. Now we're on tonight. We're doing a roundtable. We're trying to explore the book, The Ultimate Evil, by Maury Terry. And we're on live on cjmarsradio.com at 365 Live. And we're really trying to explore this whole story. It's going to take a lot more than one night because it just goes into every direction. And no matter what we do, the story just goes all over the place. So now we're on tonight with a whole bunch of guys. Mike Gray from infinityhomeplans.com. Joe Ditoma, who wrote the book The Cult of the Black Sun. Mike Marinacci, who wrote a whole bunch of books about the weird California and strange California and strange ghosts or weird ghosts. And with this woman, Sarah who?
DeLand.
Sarah DeLand. And Josh Brookshire from the band Bookhouse. And all his great music and activities he has going on. So now, Josh, you had some stuff you wanted to bring up about Manson West Coast kind of stuff again?
Yeah, I was actually getting off work and listening to your show, and I was driving home as fast as I could right when you guys got to Roman Polanski and Charles Manson. So if we keep it to The Ultimate Evil, I don't know how many people on this call or who have listening have heard that classic Radio Free America dissection. I believe it's in 4 or 5 parts. Everybody's listening to that, right?
Mae Brussels?
It wasn't Mae Brussels, but it was two men that were breaking down Maury Terry's book. It was recorded in the mid to late 80s.
No,
I missed it.
No.
I don't think I've heard it either.
Oh, wow. Well, hey, man, if anything, after the show, go check it out. Just type in The Ultimate Evil, and you'll find it. They have broken up parts into, like, Michael Aquino, Charles Manson, the original Son of Sam, like The Legacy of John Carr and all that. But basically the thesis, and this was what these gentlemen in the 80s on that radio station were saying, was that the U.S. government and governments worldwide used these cult groups as test cases basically for intelligence agencies. They spread it out. They diffused their members among them to create these things. When you get to California with Charles Manson and them, there's a lot of connections with that. You guys were talking about the Robert Kennedy dinner with Jay Sebring and Sharon Tate, correct?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Right. All right. Did you guys say
right.
that?
And also
I'm sorry.
Frankenheimer was there, who was the director of the Manchurian Candidate.
Uh-huh.
That's right, yeah.
It was held at his house in Malibu, yeah.
Sharon Tate had dinner with RFK before she died, right?
Before Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated. But the thing that you have to realize about Jay Sebring was that he was the hairdresser to not only Frank Sinatra and the entire Rat Pack, but he was JFK's hairdresser. He was in with all of these people way before RFK came along. And then, all right, you have to look really into it, but there's a big drug connection with Jay Sebring and the JFK Mafia connection. He was running his hair salon in Los Angeles, and right down the street from there was a wig shop that was owned by none other than Charles Tex Watson, who they were basically using these stores as drug fronts, you know? Like, you have to ask yourself, why would Yul Brynner go into Jay Sebring's place and pay $1,000 for a haircut? Everybody knows Yul Brynner was bald. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What had happened?
Oh, go ahead.
No. You continue, man.
I was just going to interject that Yul Brynner is one of the people who's rumored to be in the porno films that were shot by the whole at the Cielo Drive and by that whole crowd around Sharon Tate and that house. He's one of the rumored stars of them. So it's interesting you mention him in that context.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe not only that. Oh,
hey, Ed.
Sorry. Continue. I'm sorry. I'll go ahead.
Maybe that's what was going on at that private movie studio.
Which one?
The one in
Laurel Canyon?
Yeah.
Yeah,
the one built by the Air Force.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the big giant studio, that the largest movie indoor movie studio was in Laurel Canyon, run by the government. You know, yeah. But whatever came out of there, we don't know.
But it's kind of like it's like the Playboy Mansion, but not as nice, because it had a pool in the back. It had a real nice pool, you know. Didn't you see the pictures online?
I saw some pictures of it.
Yeah.
What was really going on, according to a few sources, if you guys have read into any of the Manson case literature, you know there was a lot of parties going around a house that Elvis Presley owned, correct?
No, I haven't heard that, no.
Besides Terry Melcher's house on Cielo Drive, the other popular hangout was a house that was owned by Elvis Presley down there. And what had happened when Elvis had started getting these movie roles after he came back from the Korean War is that he personally requested that all of his trailers were set up with filming equipment. And basically, in the early 60s, he was doing what we would call revenge porn or something like that, filming his sexual treats without people's permission. And these tapes actually exist as a black market among famous musicians. I know Kirk Hammett, the guitarist from Metallica, owns a few sex tapes by Elvis Presley that he made. So it wouldn't surprise me, all of these locations being around Laurel Canyon, with that the observatory, or what Dave McGowan talks about, the processing plant there where you could easily process film. These people were doing it like back then. You know, this is pre-AIDS. People can choose to do whatever drugs or sexual processes that they want, but it creates not only like a freedom of artistic expression for these people, but it also creates a black market. You dig what I'm saying? And they trade hands from hand to hand. You know, this is pre-eBay. You dig?
And
right,
tremendous opportunity for blackmail too.
Right.
Yeah, you know, because you see these celebrity
keep
sex
these people
tapes.
in line. Yeah, we'll release this stuff publicly if you don't do what we say.
Right, because you see these big celebrity sex tapes. But I can tell you right now, you can't, because even if you had a really good one in your hand, right, that you can't sell it because you have to have a release from the people in the tapes. But once they're dead, you can sell it. Now, how come all these tapes aren't out on TMZ and stuff like that? You know, but these other tapes, like a Kardashian and stuff like that, they're all in on it. They sign releases on those tapes. Even Pam Anderson, they all sign releases on those tapes, you know? So, so now, but you have these other hundreds of thousands. Look at the Chuck Berry, you know? Yeah, there's hundreds of pictures of him standing naked with all these girls. Where's that stuff? How come it's not out in the black market? Where is it?
It trades hands from people that are in the know. You know, it's not for people like us, you know, normal cats.
Yeah, but how come it's not on
TMZ? There, you can find whatever you want to find if you know the right people. You know what I'm saying? And by right people, I really mean the wrong people. You dig what I'm saying, Ed?
Yeah, I dig what you're saying, but I'm saying like it's not on TMZ where you have the Pam Anderson tape. Vivid Entertainment puts it out, you know, this whole big thing, you know. But these other tapes, you know, they're all, you know, where you really should be able to get them out because they're dead. You know?
Yeah, well, maybe they don't want to flood the market because they're making money off of them.
Yeah, well,
Well, wasn't that one of David Berkowitz's big claims that more than one of the Son of Sam murders were actually filmed for snuff film? And then you have like that dude David Parker Ray down in Texas, the supposed toy box killer, who has basically an entire semi-container outside of his trailer hooked up with a satellite dish, multiple video cameras, an extensive list of torture implements like the film Saw, and they say, oh, we can't find any evidence besides a simple cassette recording. You know what I'm saying? These things do exist. You just have to look for it.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah, he was in New Mexico. Truth or Consequences, New Mexico.
Yeah, right. Truth or Consequences. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I've read a lot about that, and I remember that now, and it's sort of gone out of my mind because of the fact that they claim they don't have any tapes. But I do remember that now that I know it was wired for sound.
Right.
But I'd forgotten about the videotapes.
Yeah, but also too.
Remember a story about, you know, the guy that's the head of TMZ, you know, the show?
Harvey Levin.
Harvey Levin. That he used to be a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
His wife, didn't she die mysteriously?
No, he's gay. I don't think he was ever married.
No, it wasn't his wife killed by the lawn boy or something?
No, that's a different guy. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Who am I talking about? Because that guy had a weird connection also to killing out in New Mexico, I believe it was. A woman killed her husband, and she said that he was making snuff films and porn films, and she had to get her children out of it. Oh, I can't remember it.
Yeah, I know the guy you're talking about. I don't think there's anything with that. You know, Harvey Levin, that's not Harvey Levin. Harvey Levin's gay.
Levin? Who was
No, it's a different guy. I forget his name. But he's on Court TV all the time in HLN, and his wife was killed by a guy. They had a handyman around them. They were building a house.
Right,
yeah.
Right, they were building a house.
Yeah.
Oh,
But back to Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, that case there were other incidences where women escaped that trailer and were running down the road there. That whole neighborhood knew what was going on.
Yeah, that was, it's sort of, we were talking earlier about people gravitating to each other.
Yeah.
It's like people give off pheromones or something because, you know, he hooked up with this woman, his girlfriend was all helping him with it and applying the leg spreaders and, you know, all of that. And I mean, who would have thought? But it's the same way that, you know, people that have been victims of incest end up marrying people who are perpetrators of incest and then letting their daughter share a bed with their 45-year-old uncle who just got out of prison for incest. You know, it's really craziness.
I always wonder, like, when you have two serial killers who hook up together and go out and start doing this, like, how does that conversation originate, you know? Like, they must have brought it up to other people, you know, who didn't go along with it. You know? Like, you know, what do you start hinting around? Hey, you know, maybe we ought to go out and smack a chick in the face. You kind of like, you know. Yeah.
Who are those two serial killers? They were cousins in California. I can't think of their name.
The Green Room.
Oh, that was
Bubona and
Bianchi. Yeah.
And, you know how that's. You know how that started? They were playing pool, right?
Yeah.
And the uncle goes to the younger guy. He goes, "You ever kill anybody?" And the kid goes, "No." And the uncle goes, "You wanna?" And he goes, "Sure." And that's how it started. Just like that. Just like that.
God.
You ever kill anybody? No. You wanna? Yeah, sure.
That's just fascinating, man. I don't know how, because you have to run into somebody who says, "Hey, what? Huh? I'm gonna call the cops." You know?
Yeah.
But I guess not.
Unless they're afraid, you know?
Yeah.
Well, there are people with a lot of anger issues, you know.
Well, they say there's something like 50,000 psychopaths, sociopaths that are capable of being serial killers, right, at any given day, on any given day.
I believe that.
Yeah. That's a lot of people. If they all kill 2 people a year, that's 100,000 people a year.
Yeah, but if you look at Dave McGowan's work, you know, he says, hey, all those serial killers, you know, they pretty much ended in the 70s, you know, with that big name celebrity serial killer, you know, and now, today, there really are no serial killers. You're hearing some stories now cropping up here and there, you know, about multiple deaths. But it's been replaced by these school shootings and stuff like that. But on TV, you have all these TV shows about serial killers. Like that TV show, Criminal Minds, you know, which is, to me, man, I'm fascinated by that show. It's such a brainwashing type show where the only heroic people on the show are these 6 FBI agents. The victims are all cowardly idiots, and the serial killer gets killed at the end. Like everyone else is a complete dunce, but these FBI agents. Even the local cops are morons.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
No, it could be brainwashing, too.
Yeah. And I'm fascinated by the show. I can't stop watching it.
I think also besides the school shooting things, I think, like, I'm not going to coin a term here, but I think you're going to have, like, event murders from now on. I don't know if anyone saw that guy that posted on the message board 4chan with, like, basically snuff pictures of him killing his girlfriend, you know?
Yeah, I saw that.
You have the guy chopping off his mom's head in New York or whatever and then killing himself, like, and then we have this insensitized, like, anonymous horde that's basically cheering it on or mocking it, but still giving it, like, an emotional fervor. You know, I think that was really the objective of the Phoenix program. Like, you have all these serial killers, and it becomes so normalized in our culture where we have shows like Criminal Minds or The Following or Dexter, all these stupid, the cop solves the case in 60 minutes type thing, but it's some gimmicky killer thing. And then people think, well, I want to be noticed. I'm going to do something crazy, basically.
Yeah.
And you have all these things, you know, that's a big black magic ritual, the whole thing.
You know what else, man?
We're all damaged by it, man.
Did you guys see this other thing, too, about in I think it was the Bronx, where the goats' heads were thrown over the telephone wires and stuff?
I saw that. Yeah.
But now the thing
I
is,
figured that was
like whoever did it, you know, they want the people in that neighborhood or wherever to see these goat heads. They want people to see it. They're doing it in public. But then they take pictures of it, and it's on everybody's computer all over the world, and we're sharing it to every, you know. So that whatever that black magic is multiplied by 100 million.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it becomes a spell. Yeah.
That took some work.
Yeah.
You know, that took some work, too.
Well, they threw them up there like we used to throw our sneakers, remember, Ed, when you were kids?
Yeah.
Tie our sneakers release together and throw them over the telephone wire.
Yeah, but they used to say that, too. That's where you could buy the pot. That would be the corner where they sold drugs.
Yeah, that whole Prospect Park, it's right across the street from Prospect Park. There's a big drugstore there. I forgot the name of it is. It's huge. Prospect Park's a golf course in it. I mean, you would not think that in the middle of New York City or in Brooklyn you'd have that much land, but I'll tell you, it's huge in there. There's an 18-hole golf course.
Going back to bigger, like, internet viral stories, and connect this, of course, back to the process, you guys know that the guy that goes by the name Lucian Greaves of that supposed new Satanic temple really used to blog for the process, right? But did you guys see that there was a gentleman that claimed to be possessed and drove are into the 10 Commandments at Oklahoma City and then urinated on them a couple weekends back?
No.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Because they want
That's where they were in connection with that black mass they wanted to have in Oklahoma City.
and not only that, but they want to put a statue of Baphomet with two kids on either side.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Interesting when you think about how many children were killed at Oklahoma City. Yeah. That they're choosing that place to take their stand, so to speak. Matter of fact, the guy that's trying to push all this through in Oklahoma City has a altar in his so-called church, which is, I think, in the basement of an office building. And it's made of the rubble from the Oklahoma City bombing.
Huh.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. So when you think about how Catholic Church has, if you have any church rated like a basilica or something like that, they'll have relics of the saint embedded in the marble of the altar.
Yeah.
It would be kind of similar to that, but on the dark side, it would be, the blood of children.
And they have the same thing at that New World Trade Center right there. They have the original stuff at the very base of it, exactly what you're saying, and it was open this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Anne, my producer, is an architect. She's involved in a lot of big projects, and she talks about how, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. The architecture in these buildings and stuff like that is ritual magic,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, you consider about the architecture of cathedrals in the Middle Ages and how much those were built around principles of sacred architecture, of using form and proportion and geometry to communicate ideas of the sacred, and how these things take sometimes a century to build, and it would be like 3 or 4 generations of guys working on them, that we're never going to see the finished product, but it was this great holy undertaking for things like that. And of course, temples in the East, the same, much of the same mentality. So I guess it can appear on the other side too.
You know what's funny? The World Trade Center, they decided where the buildings were, they're basically 2 water features, right? Where the water's going down into a pit.
Right.
And if you look in Mecca, I think, is it Mecca where the big stone is, that cube?
Yeah.
Black cube?
Right.
And all the Muslims, they march around it. They walk around it. Right. And it's, what that symbolizes, this girl I used to know, she said, don't you realize what that symbolizes? It's like souls going down into like a drain.
Right.
Just, going down the drain, like in a vortex, and then being sucked in.
Yeah.
And the water feature in the Twin Towers, water amplifies. Water is an amplifier.
Right.
You should just think about the horror on 9/11 and what happened.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's 2 black holes.
Yeah.
Well, William Ramsey talks about how they had to have planned that September 11th, hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, Betsy McGee did a documentary on that, or did a thing on YouTube on that. Really fascinating. The Rockefeller connection.
Yeah, if I don't know, man. So what do you guys think? You think that this is like overwhelming opposition we're up against here?
No, I just believe it's the incredible projection of psychopaths who know what to do. If everybody would just wake up and realize what's going on, we could equal and then overpower them. But it's just the minority and the power that they're tapped into. That's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. They've been trained in how to manipulate thinking, like a hypnotist would, They know what buttons to push, what symbols to put in front of us. I mean, their whole language is symbology. So they know just how to push the buttons to get us to react a certain way. And then...
the way I see it, they've been able to do things and get away with it because of compartmentalization. And because of the internet now, the compartmentalization is breaking down and they're being exposed. So their plans, when they like Sandy Hook, within a week of Sandy Hook, people were saying, "Hey, something's fishy here."
Yeah, but the thing is, how compartmentalized is this? When we're talking all night long for the past 3 hours, we've been talking about how it's all connected. You know, how Manson's connected to New York, and it's all connected. You know, and the thing is too is now about how the internet now we're seeing it now. Hey, we're all wising up, more waking up. I think, again, it's the same thing as when they put those goat heads over those wires. They want people to see it because for whatever reason. I don't know. I think it's part of the magic. Because you know what else?
Part of the magic spell doesn't work unless you warn the intended.
Right.
And that's what they're doing. They're giving us the warning. If they don't warn us through the rules of magic, the spell can turn around on them. If they warn us and we're too stupid to realize it was a warning, that's our problem.
I think, we got into this last time about whether they're warning us. The best magic, in my opinion, where I've studied it, is completely secret. They may spin all these things. What I think they're doing is they really create this conspiracy culture, and they spin all these stupid little things, UFOs, reptilians, all these things, and like JFK was really this and this, you know, when really the truth is right there in front of your face and you can see it. But the magic is that you think, what if? Because what is a right if it isn't obscure to the profane? The profane may think it's whatever they want it to be. That's the thing. I think they're putting it out there. Just, it's not any karmic balance. They just do it, and they expect people to be stupid about it and spin it into artistic expression or any transgressive movement or whatever you want to call it. Sorry. Continue.
Well, because along the same lines, okay, for some reason, okay, on all of our dollar bills, they got these all-seeing eye pyramid things like that, right? It's on there for a reason. And when you go to Washington, D.C., and you go into the Washington Monument, they got a tile of every single Masonic lodge all over the country is in there, you know, and all this Masonic architecture, you know, and then you have the goddess Columbia on top of the Congress, you know, and I believe that this architecture and these symbols that they use, in some way, it's able to cloud our minds, and the average person who's not tuned into this kind of crap, that's why they're so...
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Befuddled and confused by what's going on in the head of our governments and in leadership in this country.
Well, it's not only that, man.
Wait, go ahead, Joe.
They think on a spiritual level, and we think on a pragmatic level. So they're ahead of us because they know that there's an underlying factor. Someone pulling the strings, you know, and the ancients called them archons.
Right.
Which means architect, which get back to architectural. And that's what Masons call their supreme being, is called the supreme architect. There's someone pulling the strings. Now, if it's done spiritually, and then they are the only ones that know about it, and they communicate this with symbols, and we've gotten past that. We're pragmatically in the now, and everything's scientific, and this is what science says, when we're never going to catch on. You know what I mean? The past is prologue. They've already been there, mastered that form of communication and spelling, if you will, and are using it against us, but we think we've progressed past it, so we don't see it for what it is. So they can communicate with each other behind the scenes right in front of us, and we wouldn't catch on because we don't think that way. They've been educated in these mystery schools to how it really works, and they have the knowledge and we don't. Like Josh said about being profane, we're the profane, we don't know. They do.
Well, okay. I think the biggest shoe to drop right now is the mainstream media is crashing. So that's a control factor that they're losing. And the next big thing that has to crash is the dollar.
Sure.
And so because they have all the money, but once the dollar collapses, then Walmart, the Sam Walton family, they won't be so rich.
Yeah, except they probably are invested in other things that are like the Bushes are getting into water. All the oil tycoons are switching over to water rights, alternative energies. What's that guy, T.S. Boone?
T-Boone Pickens, yeah.
T-Boone Pickens, I'm sorry. That's it. So he's gotten into water. He and the Bushes are the big competitors now for water rights in Texas. He's also trying to get into wind technology and solar technology.
And
they're going into that way.
And I see all this fracking as a way to destroy the water table in this country. I really do.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's cheap energy. They get people to sell their souls for $1 because then you have some poor farmer who's been scraping in the dirt for 3 generations, and now some guy offers you 5 times what you thought your land was worth. Hey, yeah, go ahead, do it. Screw that. I'm going to destroy the aquifer for the next 10 cities past me down the stream. So, through the money.
I want to take it back to the process for a second, if you guys are down with that.
Yeah.
All right. I've harped on this a few times. William S. Burroughs' last trilogy, The Western Lands, the City Beyond the Red Dusk, and all his final trilogy is basically, it tells the story of a child kidnapped for ritual abuse by a group that is logically the process. He basically spells it out in his book. But I actually reread a couple of copies of that, especially the last part of the trilogy. And what he does in that book, he lays out basically every magic, literal magic with a K spell that you can find in any occult grimoire, including the Hand of Glory and all these. Anyone with a dark ear knows what I'm talking about. He lays it out in this book, and it's presented in a way where you think, oh, it's fiction. This guy's talking about, all these transgressive, like crazy artistic things, and people just shrug it off as an artistic expression. But people with eyes to see and ears to hear these things, they know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are people out there that legitimately chop off the hands of convicted murderers or virgins to instill invisibility from the populace upon their coven. That's what a Hand of Glory is for anybody that doesn't know about black magic. But he lays out all these things in there, and it's just basically a footnote. If you go to the Wikipedia, there isn't even a plot summary on supposedly this last great American writer's final trilogy of books. The trick is what Joe, I'm glad you recognize what I'm talking about, man, because it's all out there in front of us, but they expect us not to know it. You dig what I'm saying? It's like with the Manson thing, people will just say automatically, oh, this guy was crazy. He was a racist and he wanted to start a war, helter-skelter. He thought the Beatles were talking to him, And to an extent, that may be true. That's a part of the magic ritual, but there's a lot more going on there. There's a reason Vincent Bugliosi was tied in with the JFK trial and Manson's trial, and why no mention of the mafia occurred and why no mention of the Process Church occurred. It's all out there. You just have to look for it. You dig?
McCartney was friends with Burroughs, and Burroughs is the one that taught him to do the backward recordings. And Burroughs also wrote a story about the Mayans, 2012, the Mayan calendar, way back, like 40 years ago. He was.
And not only that, we were talking with William Ramsey, and when he was looking for the telepathic drug the Yage, he wrote a series of books called the Yage Papers with Allen Ginsberg, who was tied in with NAMBLA, obviously, and who, ironically enough, was a correspondent and friend with Michael Savage, of all people. I don't know if anybody knew that, but
no,
Allen Ginsberg, he was a correspondent.
Had quite the countercultural background before he became a radio host. And one thing I was going to mention about Burroughs is Burroughs was a Scientologist for a while.
Oh, really?
And was working the tech, then dropped out of it because I think he realized, no, this is just a personality cult around Hubbard's teachings, and didn't have, he was always a pretty much a free thinker, and he just was repelled by the robotic mentality of Scientology after a while. But he was definitely connected with them and working their tech.
Now, Michael Savage was writing poetry, love poetry to who now? Was it Ginsberg or Ramsey? Or Burroughs? I'm sorry.
He was in correspondence with Allen Ginsberg and Lawrence Ferlinghetti, also of the beat poetry scene. I don't think he had any correspondence with Jack Kerouac, but he was definitely tied in with Allen Ginsberg and Lawrence Ferlinghetti. That's all publicly accessible on his Wikipedia page.
Yeah, and they were writing love poetry to each other?
No, not love poetry. It might be construed that way. I think Michael Savage has subsequently denied anything involved with any of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to get any beef going on. I was just saying something. But the thing is, like with a lot of these artistes, when it comes to the beat poetry and later leading on to the rock and roll and psychedelic music culture, it was almost like William S. Burroughs kind of sparked it off, like Ed was saying with the Beatles and all these things. Like, he successfully evaded capture by fleeing to Mexico after he shot his wife in the face.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And this guy still appears on, like, top 10 lists. You know what? Oh, it's so artistic. This guy went to another country to evade prosecution. Like, no one mentions that. You dig what I'm saying? And then Kurt Cobain recorded with Burroughs right before Cobain died. There's many, many things with William S. Burroughs, him tied in with the Illuminates of Thanateros, with Peter J. Carroll and Robert Anton and Timothy D. Leary. All these people, he was a very big seeker. He was what I would call like a dabbler. He floated between different magical covens and occultic mystery school covens, trying to learn what he could, and he put all of it in his writings. If you read Naked Lunch, there's an entire chapter about the mugwumps, which basically describes child sexual abuse and ritual murder. That's what the mugwump represents. It represents Aleister Crowley's black brother, the people that could not face Chronozone, the demon of the abyss, and were in Thelema were considered the black brother. That is what the mugwump represents in Naked Lunch.
What is that called? The mugwump? What is it?
Mugwump. If you've ever seen the David Cronenberg movie of Naked Lunch, it's that green alien-looking monster that's supposedly a drug hallucination of the guy that plays RoboCop plays William S. Burroughs.
Naked Lunch. I got to see that.
There's a chapter in Naked Lunch. It's about the mugwumps, and it's about a murder of a boy and a girl in a ritualistic, sadomasochistic child pornography sense, and it's treated like high literature. And today you have, like, the banned books list, and it's celebrated. This book was banned, but even though I'm not a fan of censorship, I can see why people were highly, highly offended about that. Like, it's not something to joke around upon. He put all these magic works in his writing, and people just fluff it off as artistic working. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It sounds like Mugblood, like Harry Potter, Muggles or not.
Muggles, yeah. I wonder if that's where it came from.
I think she had help in, I don't think she wrote that.
No. Yeah, she tells the story. She wrote it in her car. She was living in a car or something like that.
Right.
What's interesting, though, about Harry Potter and tying back into the, legitimate magic and all that stuff is that, you guys know Alan Moore, right? He basically designed the anonymous mask with V for Vendetta. He did the
Guy Fawkes.
Ripper from Hell with Johnny Depp of all people in it. But Alan Moore did the third League of Extraordinary Villains, where he portrayed Harry Potter as the Antichrist. controlled by a figure that was a stand-in for Aleister Crowley, which is kind of interesting how he used the artistic expression to basically say Aleister Crowley's influenced the character of Harry Potter and all that he represented, you know? And he portrays Harry Potter basically doing a school shooting in like the Hogwarts, you know, university or whatever they call it, you know, in his comic book. So you tie in together with the Dave McGowan thesis of modern popular culture influencing these school shootings along with Aleister Crowley and J.K. Rowling's like magical books. So I just thought I'd throw that out there too. Because Alan Moore's kind of crazy, man. Like, he's an open proponent of all these things, magic and all that, but his book Watchmen is considered one of the top 100 novels.
Did we just lose Josh?
We just lost,
Yeah, we lost Mike Marinacci and also lost Sarah, too, earlier. It's like that movie, 10 Little Indians who are also dying one by one.
And I feel like I can't talk. It's weird.
Yeah?
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to hog the mic, man. My bad.
Yeah, that's okay, man. That's okay. We thought we lost you there for a second. We get a little nervous. People dropping off like flies. Well, you know
what's funny? I'm sorry. Go
ahead.
Well, that A History of Violence, that David Cronenberg movie. In the diner scene, okay. The two actors who play the villains that are kind of serial killers in that movie, the one actor, the older man, he played Andrew in Rosemary's Baby, or the sequel to Rosemary's Baby. He played basically, I guess, the Antichrist. And his counterpart, the younger guy, in another movie, he played like a Satanist who was killing people. I thought that was odd.
Yeah.
So here in this movie, in the diner scene, he has the older guy who, younger actor, played, the baby, Andrew, who's now grown up and getting ready to be the Antichrist.
It seems like a lot of these actors, they bring them along through different movies, and some of them seem to catch on to what's going on, and it helps their career.
Yeah.
Some of them, I believe, are legitimately like there to be fodder and sacrificed. I looked at River Phoenix. I mean, his name was River Phoenix. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. That was from birth. Yeah.
Well, they grew up in that Children of God cult.
Yep. And then his brother goes on to be basically the rising Phoenix. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he was there at his brother's death.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
So was Depp. That was Johnny Depp's club.
Yeah, that's true. Johnny Depp owned the Viper Room. Yeah.
Right. And
I'd like to know what
River Phoenix said he was going to come forward and spill the beans on the Children of God cult. And,
really?
That's when he died that night.
Oh, really? Now, is that the same one that what's your name was involved in?
Rose McGowan?
No, I'm thinking of
married to Marilyn Manson. What was her name?
Hey, did you see Rose McGowan just came out with a thing that she's saying gay men are more misogynistic than straight men? That's on Drudge.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
No, I didn't catch that either.
Yo, you know what's weird though? Bringing up River Phoenix, you guys. I'm a big fan of the movie Stand By Me. It was a big part of my childhood. You guys know Stand By Me, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know the part where they're having the campfire, and then Will Wheaton wakes up and River Phoenix is crying, you know, and all that really touching scene, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you listen to the audio commentary, Rob Reiner said that he told River Phoenix to think of a time when an adult had really betrayed his trust for that scene to get him to cry, you know? And then you watch that scene and he's saying, I can't believe a teacher would ever do that or would ever let me down like that. And then he just bawls, you know? When I think about it, you know, like, he was basically like a sacrifice archetype to the masses. You know, everybody remembers like that one role in that one movie as Chris Chambers in the Stephen King book, it's Stand By Me, based off The Body by Stephen King. It's just crazy to think about stuff like that. Like, he, besides being like the son of a cult, you're also involved in Hollywood. You have all these drug problems, and I can't imagine what went through his mind, you know?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how heavily involved is Rob Reiner in all this?
I heard someone told me that at the Altamont killing that they can see Rob Reiner in the crowd and they could see Colonel Aquino in the crowd as well.
I looked at that.
Yeah.
I didn't see them, but
I couldn't see it either.
But we know George Lucas was the cameraman.
That's right.
Right.
And Lucas bought Presidio.
Yeah.
He brought
See, don't you think that all along George Lucas was a front man for Disney because he sold, in the end, he ended up selling all his companies to Disney for $4 billion when they say it was worth like $100 billion?
Yeah.
Or more?
Well, they said all his CGI stuff came out of that movie production house we were talking about in Laurel Canyon.
Oh, yeah?
By the Air Force. Yeah. That all originated there.
Well, you know, he bought the Presidio Army base.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
he didn't buy it. I think the deal was Disney owns it now. Think about that.
Mm.
Yeah, they own that studio. Well, they said that Walt is a major contributor to the design of that studio when the Air Force was building it.
Wow.
And he was a character too, so.
There's a few crazy things about the film Give Me Shelter. You know what I'm saying? Like when you have Graham Parsons, who was supposedly one of Keith Richards' best friends. They don't feature anything from the Flying Burrito Brothers. They show the guy from Jefferson Airplane being beaten brutally by the Hells Angels. But then also when Meredith Hunter was murdered, the camera fixates right on him and freeze frames right when you see the knife about to be stabbed into his skull. It's just like an iconic image, you know? And then later you read all these things about Anita Pallenberg and Keith Richards taking Graham Parsons out to Joshua Tree and doing a bunch of LSD, waiting to see UFOs, and then his body's stolen and burned, like, as per the wishes of his will. You know, I'm a big Graham Parsons Flying Burrito Brothers fan myself. But you have all these things, it's just so tied in. You know, if you have a mind to see and you have an open artistic eye, you can see where there are these manipulations and how it goes on. You can't tell me that it isn't a coincidence that they're playing Symphony for the Devil. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's
right.
At that time, it was a hard song to pull off live. You know, it's basically all percussion.
You know, the weirdest thing
they never stopped playing it through the whole murder. Yeah.
Well, you know what's weird about the documentary is they're showing the murder, and they're at the same time they're filming Mick Jagger's reaction to watching the film. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
And you see his eyes light up, and he's just like shocked, supposedly. You know.
Right.
Well, wasn't Scorsese involved in it too? No?
He was the director, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't he? He was the Beeline. I believe he's on the Criterion releases, like the second line.
Oh, I don't know.
someone can correct me. I've only rented the film once. I've always wanted to buy a copy, but it's like $30, $40.
Well, you can get it on Putlocker. It's like on, I don't know, those online streaming things. You can watch
I know
for free.
George Lucas is a producer on it.
Mm.
Really?
It never ends, man. It's all connected, you know.
Have any of you guys ever seen the Band Stones film, the
Yeah.
See Sucker Blues? You guys have seen that?
The what?
I don't want to see Sucker Blues. You guys can figure out what I'm saying, you know. It was a band film by the guy that made Bob Dylan's Don't Look Back. Basically, it was a behind-the-scenes look at the Rolling Stones when they were touring behind
Yeah. I saw that.
Ed, you know what I'm talking about? There's a part in the movie where they're on their private jet plane, and you have Bianca Jagger, who was married to Mick Jagger at the time. The camera goes to the front of the plane, basically, where they're performing the sex act on this young lady, and it pans back on her reaction to it.
Yeah.
And so cold. Her eyes are so blank, you know? You know what I'm talking about?
It was a long time ago that I saw it, but I know what you're talking about. There's a lot of groupie stuff going on in that film where all the groupies seem to be like abused.
Yep. It's a harsh film. Apparently, it's only screened once per year in Europe on some film festival or something like that. I know there's a bunch of bootleg copies out there. I've only seen clips of it. I don't know if I like the Rolling Stones. I mean, beyond all the occult, all that BS, you know, it's good music. I feel like they really dropped off once Brian Jones was murdered, you know?
Hey, Joe Ditoma, now what do you think about this now? Because now, both me and Josh, like, if we like a music, like, even if it's there is occult stuff behind it, do you think it's harmless if you have the protection, you know, the blood of Jesus? Is it okay to listen to that music, or you think it still affects you?
I could think if you can be so in the now that you can listen to it and know it, you won't be affected by it. I guess it's okay because it is very entertaining, but you just have to be aware of it. But most people aren't aware of it, and
then they fall right into it. Yeah.
The dark energy from it, you know. If you're aware of it and you just say, "Well, I like the beat, I'm going to stay with that," and leave it at that, you know.
Yeah.
Like the Sympathy for the Devil, for a long time, was one of my favorite songs. I knew exactly what it was about, and I knew I shouldn't be getting into it, but the song itself is just mesmerizing, you know. But I knew what it was about, and I didn't allow myself to be sucked into it, but I could see where people would be. You know, you get David Berkowitz listens to that song, and it's like, oh, isn't this awesome? Oh, man, we got to, you know.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you've got a cult on your hands, you know. So,
I believe, like, if you can actually look beneath all these things and you can appreciate what they were going for, you can actually see what was going on. You know, it's like that song on Exile for Main Street, Sweet Black Angel, is actually about Angela Davis. You know, like, It's really strange to look back on the Rolling Stones because up until Brian Jones was murdered, he was really their tether into a lot of the stuff that Luke Oldham cut him out of. Brian Jones is all over the Beatles records. He's on Sgt. Pepper's. He's on, I believe he has a saxophone track on Magical Mystery Tour and all these things. And then he suddenly ends up murdered. His girl ends up with Keith Richards. And then she leaves him to film that Nicholas Roeg movie, Performance. And then Donald Cammell, the guy that plays...
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you want to get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The lead character in that movie went completely insane. Michelle Breton, who was basically underage, if I do remember correctly, she might have been 16 or 17 when she was filming real sex scenes with Anita Pallenberg and Mick Jagger. She ended up as a heroin addict and died really young. Marian Ann Faithfull, who was tied in with the Process Church, who posed on the cover with a dead wilted flower on the same issue that Charles Manson wrote his piece in, she ended up as a destitute drug addict for many years before having a career renaissance. Anita Pallenberg had a baby that died, I believe, soon after it was born of SID, sudden infant death syndrome. A bunch of things happened, you know, so they put all this magic out there, and it came back to bite them. You know, say what you want about the Stones, but they got their comeuppance at the end. You know, they're basically coasting on Keith and Mick's fumes at this point. All they got is Charlie playing drums. They don't even have Bill Wyman on bass. Ronnie Wood's there for no reason other than to collect a check, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to come back on you. You can't taunt the devil and get away with it for too much longer, you know?
And then you have Keith Richard playing Johnny Depp's dad in that movie, right?
Which movie?
The Pirates of the Caribbean Part 3 or 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And when he was filming it, he almost died. He fell off a coconut tree or something, or he almost had a brain aneurysm or something stupid like that.
Yeah. Johnny Depp's a weirdo, man. He's into some weird stuff. Every character he plays, you know, he played Hunter Thompson. Hunter Thompson was supposedly director of snuff films.
Yeah, that whole cult around Thompson. You know, also too, you know, the Miami Vice guy, Don Johnson. They were neighbors, you know, and and that guy with his whole, you know, with his whole, forget it.
Well, yeah, he's a pedophile.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, you know, this guy. Who's the guy from the Fast and Furious movies? This Paul
Walker.
Paul Walker. Yeah, he's a pedophile.
Oh, really?
Really?
The guy was 36 years old, and his fiancée was 15.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
He was younger than his daughter. And everybody made a hero out of this guy. And I'm like, wait, what? The girl's 15 years old. You were 36. You're a pedophile. You know?
And his dad looked like the devil.
Yeah.
And here his son just gets killed in a car crash, and he's doing interviews, and he's tearless. He has no emotion about it, right? He's like, yeah, he died.
Yeah. Another sacrifice going.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, man, here we are in the after show, and we are number number 7 on TalkStream Live. Not even on the main show. And we're killing here in the ratings, man. Yeah, I gotta tell you, we're beating, you know, the big guys, man.
Really?
Now, are we up against Michael Savage?
Yeah, well, Michael Savage right now is number 1, but he always has done this thing. But we're right behind Alex Jones, okay? And we're ahead of Sean Hannity, we're ahead of Dennis Miller, we're ahead of Jimmy Church, we're ahead of Glenn Beck, we're ahead of Dark Matters Radio, Herman Cain we're beating. And even AZ, we're not even on there right now, and we're beating a lot of these people too. So, yeah, we're doing pretty good, guys.
Good.
Yeah.
Herman Cain has a radio show.
Yeah. Now wait, you want to know something though, man? Herman Cain, there's no way he could not have known Larry King. Because how many black Republicans were there at that time?
You're talking about the pedophile Larry.
Yeah, there was a whole article about that, man. There's no way those two guys did not cross, cross paths.
Yeah.
And also, too, you know, getting back to the whole Franklin cover-up thing, Manson came out of, was it
Boys Town?
Yeah, that's right, man.
Right, he spent time at West Town. Yeah.
Yo, Ed, what I was trying to get across in that message for Michael Marosini, and I hope I'm pronouncing his name all right.
That's close enough.
Is he back?
No, we lost him.
Yeah.
The thing is about Charles Manson is where he learned to play guitar and where he got the connection with the auto jacking ring and the prostitution ring in L.A. was from creepy Alan Carpet. who was connected with Ma Barker's gang. I don't know if you guys are old enough or into crime enough to remember the Ma Barker gang. Yeah. They were associates with the Genovese crime family, one of the 5 families in New York.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And anybody that knows, like, the mafia stuff knows that in L.A., you can't get a job at the Whiskey A Go-Go without knowing someone that's connected, a friend of a friend or a friend of ours. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And the thing is, that car ring had been running around since the late 40s in L.A. He just inherited the title after getting out of Boys Town, and then all of a sudden he's in L.A. and he's running a carjacking ring with a dude like Bruce Davis from, I believe he was Straight Satan, the biker gang Straight Satan. Yeah. And then that guy, after the Manson murders, apparently he took a significant amount of drugs to Dublin and then went down through Manchester, sold the drugs, and then formed his own commune for a couple of years in Manchester. Bruce Davis, who gave Charles Manson the scabbard that he used to chop off Gary Hinton's ear. I don't know if anybody knows anything about that, but I just wanted to bring that up, man. It's just all these connections, dude. These connections are out there if you want to look around and put your feelers out. You dig?
Mm. Yeah. Well, those people are going to gravitate to each other, you know? It's like you put a pedophile, get him on a plane and fly him to Spain, and in an hour he'll know where all the pedophile bars are. You know? They're magnets for each other, you know?
Not only that, but I feel like a lot of these times word is sent in advance, like you will meet this guy, he's on our level, talk to him, bring him into the fold type deal, you know? They don't all start out as initiates on the same level. You have to bring what they consider like-minded fellows into the craft, basically.
Right.
In whatever perverted nature you want to label that into. You dig?
Yeah, well, that's the mafia works the same way. The mafia is really a Masonic lodge. It was formed by 33rd degree Mason. They, you know, when you join the mafia, you have to burn the pictures of a saint. You have to spit on a cross. You know, you have to do all these, you know, profane things to Christian symbols to get into the mafia, because the mafia is your god now. But you don't get into the mafia until you kill somebody, because they need you to have blood on your hands, so you're as guilty as everybody else.
Yeah, right. It's the same thing with these other guys. There's always a debt.
Right. They start them off. You know, you're running numbers, you do this, you do that, and you work your way up the ladder, and then when they think you're ready, you know, they have people from a killing. If it goes okay, then you're in. You're a made man. Same thing with these places. They don't start you off at the top. You have to work your way up from initiate up to priesthood.
You got to make your bones.
Yeah.
Yep.
You kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You know, they want to get rid of somebody and corrupt, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't, now you're guilty of murder, so you can't rat somebody else out. The theory being, you know, before plea bargaining, I guess, you wouldn't be able to rat somebody out because you're going to go to the electric chairs with them, you know.
Oh, yeah, and there's another thing I wanted to bring up with Charles Manson, where you guys were talking about specific sites where things go on and it seems to perpetuate. You know how Long Island had Son of Sam, and then afterwards, out of Untermeyer Park and all this, you have a continual basis of ritual things. When it ties with Charles Manson, he actually established the Spawn Ranch near the original Fountain of the World, which was the original Rainbow Cult. A guy, I forget his name, you can look it up if you look up Fountain of the World on Wikipedia. He was a cult leader that believed in polygamy and group sex, and like Charles Manson, with Manson's family codified the women in the cult by colors. Like Charles Manson's squeaky foam is red, Sandra Good is blue, et cetera, et cetera. You know, if you actually like look into it, like each of the girls were codified by a color. And then eventually, the guy that ran the original Fountain of the World was assassinated, and a bomb was planted in his place and killed him, I believe 20 years before Charles Manson showed up. It was a post-World War II cult out there in Death Valley. It was called Fountain of the World, if anyone wants to look it up.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I always said about the Son of Sam murders taking place, cult taking place at Untermeyer Park is, you know, that Samuel Untermeyer was a known Satanist. He, they wrote articles about him in England because he would travel back and forth from England. And he built this temple to Saturn in his backyard, you know.
Yeah, and those rocks were brought over from England.
Right. So, you know, the whole thing is, to me, Son of Sam isn't about a Sam Carr. I think they're referring to Samuel Untermeyer as being
right.
The head,
that's a connection.
You know, I think that's what they meant by the Son of Sam. You know, I think the other part about Sam Carr was just, you know, to throw people off the scent, so to speak. But that place has been a cult since the 1800s, you know?
Well, the thing with Sam Carr's house, though, being passed over, you know, at a sweetheart deal to a friend of his, you know, and I believe those cars, like the VW, is still on the property.
Oh, really?
I think, isn't that what they were saying in the group?
Well, they were saying they wanted to get into the house to, I guess, look in the basement and see if there's any DNA evidence for anything going on there.
Has to be something that they want to keep hidden.
Yeah.
What did the father know? What did the father with the dog know? Did he know anything? Was he?
Well, supposedly he was, you know, he had problems, I guess, drinking, and he used to beat the kids here. I don't know.
Yeah, he was very abusive to the kids, yeah.
Yeah. But.
And there's no doubt that the Carr sons were involved in a cult.
Do you think he didn't know? Or do you think he did know?
The father?
Yeah.
I think he did know, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems odd that a cult would rise up among one family like that, you know, all around one family like that. But I guess that's how cults happen. They happen around one person. Yeah. I guess that's the definition of a cult. The one person becomes the leader, you know. Except this was a combination of 2 or 3 cults. It was the Druidic cult that was already in Yonkers since the 50s. Then you had the Process group, and then you had the kids in Untermeyer Park, and they all seemed to join together into, I guess it was a perfect storm, you know, to come up with the killings, the serial killings.
Well, if you believe the Process stuff, then you have to realize that the United States government was tied into it at some point. They were keeping tabs on these people, you know. They knew who to use, you know. They look at these weak people that are into black magic, and then they say, all right, what can I tell them to bring them into my fold and make them think that I'm a true magus, you know, or I am the Magi, the illuminated one, and I can teach them what's going on, even if they're just a puppet and pawn of the United States government. You know what I'm saying? Because there are all these murders associated beyond the official murders of the Son of Sam, which look to me, I'm only 27. I was born way after all this happened. My mother was a freshman in college when this was going on, basically. And it looks like targeted assassinations to me, you know.
But
there's just too many coincidences.
What's that, Joe?
Wait, say that again.
I think that's the purpose of all these cults. It's been going on since the days of the OSS. They started looking into ways to what they call brainwash people. And you got to look at the story of Long John Nebel's wife. What was her name?
Candy
Jones. And she kind of spilled the beans on it. She was like the first one that came out and spilled the beans on it. You know, she was a famous pinup model back in the 40s. Got hooked up with the Bob Hope crowd, you know, the USO crowd. Drew the eye of a bunch of generals. And they kind of brainwashed her into becoming a courier, which is how a lot of this started. Was before computers, if you had to get a message to, let's say, an agent on the other side in Asia, on the other side of the world, you wanted to be able to transport that message without it being intercepted and still be able to get the message across. So you would encrypt it into the mind of a person like Candy Jones, who had multiple personalities. Only one of the personalities knew what the message was. So she could be tortured, and they tried to torture her. And she never gave up a message until she got to the person who gave her the trip, you know, that tripped her memory. And she was able to give the message, get back on a plane, and come back home again. That was the purpose of brainwashing. Then it got into running drugs, which and all the money that was available from drug running didn't pass by anybody's sight unnoticed. So they started doing it for that. And then there became the expedient political assassinations. How are we going to do this? How are we going to have plausible deniability that we want to kill the leader, the president of South Vietnam, who's not going along with our program? Let's send somebody over there to kill him who's just some crazy lunatic like a Mark David Chapman. No one's ever going to know who he was or where he came from. And your political assassinations could be carried out, and your hands are clean. No one will ever be tracing back to you. And that's what I think all these cults are about, is government's been screwing around with drugs, and they got interested in LSD. They invented it, truthfully, and then the CIA invented it. And they started to get into other drugs. They wanted to get into mescaline and ayahuasca, and they started reading Carlos Castaneda. And if you ever read any of the books by Carlos Castaneda, he talks about beings that control everything on Earth. And this has to be fascinating because the CIA is all about control. So, hey, maybe we could get people on these drugs, and they'll think they're being controlled from out of the world. And the whole scenario pops up around it, and then you got a cult. Best place to hide it is in a cult. So you pop up a cult over here, a cult over there, or you think develop a couple of assassins in this cult, a couple in that cult. And they pick and choose. They need somebody, they go over, say the magic words, guy goes into a trance, put him on a plane, send him where you got to go, hand him a gun when he gets there, and he does the job, you know? I mean, that's what I think it's all about. I think that's the main connection, is through all of that. They use the magic and the off-world stuff as a way to bind it together, you know, with their victims, the way to bind the story together in their minds. And whether they're true or not doesn't mean that the victims are any less dead. You know, it's a perfect setup for an operative organization like the CIA.
Yeah, there does seem to be a lot of intelligence connections to these groups. Even Manson and Tex Watson, you know,
right.
And Manson having these field radios and stuff like that. And
Look, Colonel Aquino was one of the head men in the mind watching programs in the CIA. You know, it can't be a coincidence that then he started a satanic church.
Right.
He was involved in the killings at the Presidio, you know, or the child molestations at the Presidio, and you know, they just can't be coincidences. It's just a way to hide in plain sight, you know.
And not even that, but it's interesting that Zena LaVey, Anton LaVey's daughter, was prominently featured in the satanic baptism picture that was spread throughout the media and all that. later in her life, for a short period, she was actually head of the Temple of Set. She replaced Michael Aquino, and then for a period of time, it was broken up after that. And then Aquino stepped in later on. And it's weird. Part of my information and subject comes from her husband, that dude Nicholas Schreck, who did the documentary Charles Manson Superstar, and he wrote that book, Charles Manson, Myth and Reality of the Outlaw Shaman, which contains a bunch of insane inside knowledge from many of the people that were involved with Rosemary's Baby, the film, the set dresser, all these things, and a guy referred to as Mr. X, which in my opinion is quite likely Jack Nicholson, who was on site the day after the murders were discovered at Cielo Drive, and who helped clean up the crime scene and all that.
With Robert Evans, by the way.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Yep, Robert Evans.
And who was also involved in way more than I realized, was way more involved with the murder of Roy Radin. That woman, Laney Jacobs, that was actually his girlfriend. They were living together for months and months. And then she went to live with Mensker. They were living together. But she was calling him. She called him up before and after the murders, the night of the murder of Roy Radin.
He's dead now, right? Evans?
Robert Evans? No, he's live and well, and I think I can get him on the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's not going to tell you.
Well, he checks everybody out, so he probably wouldn't come on. But he's very available to do shows like this.
It's funny.
Yeah.
That guy Shrek, wasn't he? He's the head of some werewolf cult or something?
Originally, he participated in the magical musical occult group Radio Werewolf. They did the 8/8/1988 Free Charles Manson rally with Zeno LaVey, the Secret Chiefs, and that dude Boyd Rice from Non. I don't know if you guys know Boyd Rice. He was associated with the skinhead movement. And he did a lot of writing for Richard Metzger's Disinformation Press. If anyone out there knows anything about alternative media, y'all will remember Disinformation, right?
No,
yeah.
It sounds familiar, but I don't know exactly.
Real quick, we got a question from the chat room. How do you feel about the Process Church having their own publishing company, Feral House, and putting out books in the Process Church? Because, you know, Timothy Wiley's daughter is one of the big shots over at Feral House. But I wonder if people realize that these original members of the Process Church, guys who actually went down and visited Manson in prison that we were talking about before with that INS document that we had, and people firsthand involved with the Son of Sam stuff, are now all still together in Utah, running an animal shelter.
Yeah.
A shelter for, you know. Oh. Yeah, and have assets, I've heard, as much as $40 million.
Yeah, Best Friends Animal Shelter.
Yeah, Best Friends.
Hey, Joe, you know what shocked me?
What?
When you told me that, and I was kind of a fan of his, Joseph Farrell was actually a guy by the name of Adam, was it? Parfrey, yeah.
Adam Parfrey owns Feral House Publishing.
Yeah.
And he's also connected to the Process Church.
And
I've heard that they are the same person, but they certainly look alike.
Yeah. But now he's hooked up with Peter Levenda, and Peter Levenda, who you can look on YouTube, he did Sinister Forces.
Right. I've read his book.
According to Douglas Dietrich, he is the actual author of the Necronomicon, is it? Or the Necro...
Right, the Necronomicon. Yeah.
It's not even... it's not even attributable to Douglas Dietrich. There are many, multiple references. He is legitimately Simon of the Simon Necronomicon. If anyone doubts that, I would have to question their cognitive functions. He's listed on the copyright things and everything with the Library of Congress. Like, he's listed. He's there. You know, Lavender wrote that. You know, no one can doubt it, in my opinion.
What's weird is
hiding the fact that he's an occultist.
And what's weird is when I heard him in an interview a few years back, not that long ago, he lives in Taft, Florida, which is this weird little town right near me, you know, because I'm in Kissimmee. But when you drive through Taft, it's like a 1 square mile town, and it's right near the these gas pipes and these big oil tanker things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right by the Orlando airport. Yeah.
Peter Lavender lives there?
That's what he said when I was listening to an interview, that he was given, that he lived in Taft, Florida.
Interesting.
Well, guys, we're getting toward the end, okay? It's almost going to be 9 o'clock. And I've been going since 4:30. You know, so how do you guys, we have Joe Ditoma, the author of The Cult of the Black Sun, and we have Mike Ray from InfinityHomeplans.com, and good old Josh Brookshire from Bookhouse. How do you guys want to end up this, wrap this up in the next 5 minutes?
Like Caddyshack. Well, I'm sorry that the other people got, your other guests left, or what happened? The
calls drop all the time, man. So, there's a thing in the chat room about how Michael's Vic's dogs went to the shelter in Utah, with the Protestant Church shelter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
No, man. I tell you, it's just, it never ends,
Yeah.
Why would you ship dogs in California to Utah? Weird.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more than just Utah. I think they have branches all over the place. It's a huge animal shelter.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's one here in the next town from me that's called Best Friends, and it's a place where you drop off your dog if you're going on vacation, that kind of thing. And I don't think they're affiliated. It seems to be different logos, but they could be.
Well, one thing I found really interesting about these animal rescues is they always tell you, whenever you contact one, they always say, oh, well, don't deal with these other ones because they give their dogs to fighting clubs and all these weird rumors and bizarre myths that they come up with about how if you get a dog on Craigslist, it's all from fighting clubs and stuff like that, and all kind of weird crap. It's always it's the whole animal shelter stuff like that seems to have that same vibe of disinformation, like around the West Memphis 3 and this kind of process stuff, like these activist guys in there meddling around and stuff with the truth. But what do you think?
The one last thing I wanted to leave, if anyone looks at the logo for Best Friends for Animal Society out of Kanab, Utah, it's a paw print, right?
Right.
And that's typically a tattoo used by people who call themselves bears in like the community, an older person that takes advantage of a younger or more slight, like a domination thing. If you look at many people, they have that same tattoo with it's like a claw print tattoo.
Like a panther prints or something like that, right? Like,
look for that image. That's what I want to. That's my last word on Best Friends for Animal Society. Me as a person with the third eye that looks at these things, that image itself is a very big signifier of what is connected into it. I just wanted to say that.
And also, too, that movie Hostel, the first one that came out, the club that was in there doing all that stuff, had that kind of a tattoo as well.
Yep. And it's all about making snuff films and, killing people for money for the thrill of it.
Yeah, and can I publicly say that I don't like Eli Roth?
Sure.
I'm tired of people kissing his ass.
Go ahead. All right, guys. Listen, gotta get
Eli Roth.
I got to get some food inside me, and it's been a long day. But thank you all for coming on. Joe Ditoma, author of The Cult of the Black Sun. Michael Gray from InfinityHomeplans.com, and good old Josh Brookshire from Brookhouse Entertainment. What's Brookhouse Music? What's it called?
Our website is bookhouse.bandcamp.com.
Bookhouse.bandcamp, right? Okay. All right. So next week we're doing another show on kind of weird California kind of stuff. Ann found him for me. He's really good. It's along these lines. I haven't done my homework on him yet. We have coming up after that too. Oh, Lee Lamb coming up with the story of the Curse of Oak Island, where there's supposed to be that buried treasure out there on Oak Island, and people are digging for it, and then it got flooded. You know, the whole thing. I'm fascinated with that story myself. And so Lee Lamb actually lived on that island. And her parents lived on that island for years and years and years. They were circus performers who then went and became treasure hunters on Oak Island. So that's going to be a fascinating story. Then we have Catherine McDonald, the wife of Jeffrey McDonald. And I'm actually going to be talking to Jeffrey McDonald from prison. Okay, I'm going to be doing some interviews with him. Yeah, I got a whole bunch of stuff. What we're doing, by the way, a couple of things we need. We need an audio engineer that can help us get this Sam set up and get the mixer and stuff set up here in Vegas, and also too someone who, if they want to be our audio engineer, that I could just Skype into them and they can run all this stuff, run all these boards for us. That would be great. Also too, what I want to do is we're going to start doing more elaborate interviews and produced documentaries. Let's say like a story with the West Memphis 3. I know everybody involved in that case, so I have access to all the people, the witnesses, the cops, the DAs, the parents. I have access to everybody. I can interview them all, and then we just need someone to help us cut it all and edit it together with some video and with some, still shots, and we can put together really serious produced documentaries with access to people that no one else has. So that's our next project after we get the website up in the next month or so.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
So that's about it. And coming up next at the first of the year, we got guests lined up you wouldn't believe. We got a whole bunch of people coming that are just going to knock your socks off. So we'll see you next week, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on CJ Mars Radio and hazyradio.com. And hopefully we'll have iHeart set up and Spreaker will be broadcasting live on our own channel. Okay, good night.
Thank you, Ed. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Joe.
Night.
You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York.
Stand up, all victims of oppression, for the tyrants fear your might. Don't cling so hard to your possessions, for you have nothing if you have no rights. Let racist ignorance be ended, for respect makes the empires fall. Freedom is merely privilege extended, unless enjoyed by one and all. So my brothers and sisters, for the struggle carries on. The walls to divide us, walls of hatred nor walls of stone. Come greet the dawn and stand beside us, we'll live together or we'll die alone. In our world poisoned by exploitation, those who will take, they must give, and then the vanity of nations, we make one earth on which to live. Some brothers, sisters, for the struggle carries on. The international unites the world in song. So comrades, come for this is the time and place. The international ideal unites the human race. And so begins the final drama in the streets and in the fields. We stand unbound before their armor, we defy their guns and shields. When we fight, provoked by their aggression, let us be inspired by life and love. Although they offer us concessions, change will not come from above. So
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.